A lone warrior walks the path of revenge by throwing bottles at every single person he meets.
Stop.
Or at the very least, opening up his attacks with them. That is the journey of Sifu. Sifu is the latest hand-to-hand combat simulator from Absolver developer Sloclap. Within my first few hours, I fell in love with the intricate dance of martial arts on display. For every killer strike I had, the enemy had 2 more coming back at me, meaning I needed to learn to dodge and parry at lightning speeds. The accuracy of the moves on display is astonishing, as enemies correctly block fists and elbows at the correct placement, and takedowns feel less scripted than pre-done animations typically do. All this flavor from just the base level of gameplay, but upon reaching my first dragon statue, I discovered the hidden depth of this game. These jade dragon statues act as a progression marker through the game, letting you unlock new abilities and increase stamina and blocking using experience, score, and even your age. The less times you've died, the more you have access to. The more masterful techniques that you can get, the more adept you are in combat. It's a trade-off though. Do you want to be powerful, or do you want to be well-versed? Do you want to be able to be resilient, or do you want to have some cool sweep kicks? It's up to you to figure out the best playstyle for you. It's really cool to be able to use these statues to expand your repertoire, unlocking new moves in your arsenal, from as simple as a snap kick to the more masterful techniques of rain of strikes or environmental mastery, letting you fling stools and bricks and even knives at foes as you move about the varied areas on display. That's probably one of my favorite bits, honestly. You actually use the environment. Contextual takedowns, alternate routes, and unique weapons that you can only find by exploring the area as you move around, avoiding enemy punches and kicks. Now, all this wasn't learned in my first life. Death lingers around every corner, and while it punishes you with the pain of age, trading in some of your health to return to combat at the very moment of your death, you gain the experience that you've learned, as well as an increased damage output. You age like a fine wine. It hits a little harder. This mechanic is maybe the most unique way of handling the Souls-esque return to life thing, as you don't really start at the last checkpoint so much as you start back right where you were, aged by some years, ready to finish the fight. A feat that I'm sure has horrifying ramifications for the lore of this world, but luckily the bad guys here just kind of say, oh hell no, and then move on. The moment-to-moment action of Sifu is exhilarating, bringing stylish kung fu flourishing in to each second of the game, and its loop of death up to a certain point makes the game feel like you are truly mastering fighting over time. With a crunchy, thumping soundtrack that works in every setting, its visceral sound design letting you have clear audio cues for whenever takedowns are available, the game really stands out from an audio design standpoint. Unfortunately, where it does fall flat in that regard is in the dialogue. There were plenty of times throughout this game, and it could just be me, but the audio for the vocals was completely inaudible. Now this may be fixed in an upcoming patch, but as of right now, it really hinders some of the choices that are in the narrative. Beyond that, the story is one that is exceedingly simple. A simple story of simple revenge. Seek out the killers of your father and end them, no matter how many lives it takes. And while it does nothing new for that genre, and while it's nothing new in the realms of this type of story, it is a nice backdrop for the action kung fu gameplay. I've repeated and died and died and died and died and died close to 100 times now, improving each time, pushing forward further into the levels. At the end of each of these levels, a boss awaits you, one of the men or women who attacked your family. And these fights are by far the most rewarding and difficult fights of the game, as the speed of combat vastly increases, adding a flurry of new moves and mechanics in quick succession as the boss challenges your mastery of the base game mechanics. The very first boss starts his flurry with a mix-up attack that comes overhead with a spinning kick that you will not see coming at first. It's heavily telegraphed, but it caught me off guard every time for that first fight. It will knock you to your knees so fast. Then, when you get past that nonsense, he pulls a machete on you and disappears into a forest of bamboo that he just made. Which, seems kind of unfair, but, okay. It's a ton of fun to have the combat become familiar, only to have it mixed up in such fantastically different ways. And yes, the systems here are still the same, but the results are excitingly different to play. All in all, with its fast-paced kinetic action, interesting replayable levels, and a deeply nuanced fighting system, Sifu makes for a standout game from a design standpoint. But unfortunately, the lackluster story and audio problems hold it back from attaining its true nirvana. I give Sifu an 8 out of 10. If you're interested in seeing more from Sifu, check out our Martial Artist Reacts, where we have a martial artist come in and check out some of the takedowns and fight scenes throughout the first few levels of Sifu. And for all the latest on games, reviews, previews, and news, stay tuned to Hardwired.